today's video, I want to talk a little bit about leasing land, specifically for whitetail in the Midwest. Last year was the first year that I officially leased a piece of ground. It was 160 acres, and I kind of want to just go over my experience with it. And I renewed that lease for this year, and I want to talk a little bit about the process of how I found the lease, how I went about obtaining the lease, and how I renewed it, and just some of my overall thoughts after my first year with it, and some things that you might be able to learn from my mistakes, and also some different things that I found out through the process. So going through high school and through college, I always knew that I wanted to own some ground, big piece, preferably 100 to 200 acres of my own, and be able to plant food plots and just the typical hunter's dream. And with the price of everything, the older you get, you realize that these things take a lot of money. And I think for most people, ground can be unaffordable. I mean, just to put it bluntly. And it's hard to get a hold of the right piece in the right location. So the only alternative to that, in my opinion, is leasing. And leasing a piece of ground, you can actually save money over the long run if you throw the math out there and you get it for the right price. It allows you to save money. Instead of making that payment on the land, you're making payment at leasing it. And the advantage to that is that at any point you can jump out of this lease. Like you have your 1-year lease or your 2-year, whatever your agreement is for. You can jump out of that lease if this piece of ground turns to crap. And if you own it, you got to try to sell it. And that's just one little advantage to this that you can have. And you can also have multiple pieces of ground, different years. You can lease 1 year, you can decide not to lease the next year if you run into financial hardships, or things like you having kids, or you're getting married, you're going to go elk hunting, just different stuff that runs in the way that you might not be able to afford that time of the year. So leasing really has a superior advantage to owning ground. Don't get me wrong, like I'd love to have a piece of ground, and someday I plan to buy a piece, but if I'm not ever able to come up with the money to do so, leasing's always going to be there, and it's always going to be an option. And what's great about leasing is you practically own the ground. I mean, I could go in and plant food plots, I can hunt anything I want, and some pieces of ground are going to be different. That's contingent upon what the actual landowner will allow. And the big thing with these leases that I've found is the insurance policy. And I think that's kind of what separates these big leasing agencies from just going up to somebody and offering them money. I mean, if you can go up to a farmer or somebody and offer them cash and have them, or let them allow you to go hunt that ground, then albeit do that. I mean, that's the way to go. But when it all comes down to it, the landowner wants to be protected for insurance purposes. He doesn't want to get sued. So you're going to find a lot of good pieces of ground through these leasing agencies. And I just so happen to find the piece that I'm currently leasing through a leasing agency online. I actually found the piece of ground. I found the agency on a no trespassing sign. They post them around the different leases in the area, and you can go to those signs and actually look up the agency and go to their website, become a member for free, and end up searching different properties around the area. So, I mean, they're pretty easy to find. Like I said, you can drive around, just look for any type of properties that are for sale or for lease, or just word of mouth. But it all comes down to, honestly, if you can't find anything, type in a quick Google search, hunting leases near me, or whatever you got to type in to find one, and there'll be one pop up in your area. So on the particular lease that I have, last year I went in with a friend of mine, and we could have a maximum of 4 hunters on it. And we actually just had 2. It was just me and a buddy, and it was like 160 acres, and we had it all to ourselves. So, if you get 4 people in there, you're going to pay less price. You're going to split that evenly. But if you only have 2, you're going to pay more, and you're going to have a little more room to hunt. That's also something that's pretty cool. I mean, if you're going to go buy a piece of ground, you're probably not going to go buy it with your friend. You're not going to include 3 other guys on this piece of ground. So with leasing, you can have 2 friends hunt this year, and you could have it by yourself next year if they don't want to pay for it. So with leasing, there's a lot of flexibility and overall the potential to harvest the biggest deer possible. Some different things that you can expect if you go through a leasing agency. They're going to have the insurance included in the price of the bid, and you basically just have to sign for it. And it's really a simple process. They'll send you some papers in the mail or by email. You can sign it, e-sign it, whatever you got to do, and send it back to them along with your payment. And that's as easy as it is. For mine, I really haven't had to do anything other than that. I have the leasing agent's phone number. I've never talked to him on the phone. I've emailed him back and forth a few times, but other than that, it's not a whole lot. You don't have to go running back and forth and signing 15 different contracts. You got to sign a couple papers, and you're pretty much good to go. One thing I would make sure of, to make sure that the leasing agency that you're going through is legit, I'd make sure that they had a contract in there. I mean, it's pretty simple stuff here, but just have that contract, read through it, make sure that they're not screwing you over. I don't think these guys are out to screw you over. Don't get me wrong, they're here to make some money, but having these people in between you and the landowner really makes it a lot easier, and it makes it possible to lease these properties. To talk a little bit about the price, you can expect somewhere between $25 and $40 an acre here in Illinois. I happen to get our lease for around $30 an acre in a bidding process. With a particular agency, they give you a deadline to put your bid in, and then come that deadline, they'll contact you and let you know that you either won the lease or somebody else did. But they usually put a minimum price in there, and sometimes you can get those things for the minimum, and sometimes that bidding process is it's going to be pretty tough. But we got a pretty good price on ours, and between splitting it between 3 guys, it worked out really nicely. So if you can find some friends to go in with you, it really helps bring the price down. But one thing that you need to remember is you might as well factor in between $500 and an extra $1,000 just to get more trail cams, more deer stands. There's all sorts of stuff that play into it. If you want to plant a food plot, you're going to have to spend money on seed and just trying to get your equipment there. It's going to be difficult to do. So, if you're tight for money, you need to really factor that into your budget, because you're going to end up spending a whole lot more just to get that property ready to hunt. And if you're somebody that's already got all that stuff, well, great, you don't have to worry about it. But like I said, anywhere from probably 25 to 40, and I'm sure there's exceptions to that. You're going to find some that are insanely priced. But to hunt a property here in Illinois, I just expect to pay somewhere around there. For our particular leasing agency, we go through somebody that has a bidding process to actually win the lease. And they put a minimum amount that you have to bid online, and then they give you a certain date that you have to do it by, and you can enter in your bid. Others can see your bid, so you can get a good back and forth right at the deadline if you wanted to. But that's kind of how that process works. I don't really know how other agencies do it. I assume it's bidding too, because they're trying to make money at the end of the day. And if they've got a hot piece of ground, they're going to do everything they can to market that piece of ground and jack that bidding price up. One thing I want to talk about is renewing the lease. And so last year I had this lease for the first time, and then this year around July, my leasing period runs from July 1st to July 1st. So come around July 1st, I renewed the lease. The agent got a hold of me, and they give you what they call the right of first refusal. So you don't have to go through that bidding process again with this particular agency. We were able to just say, hey, we want this lease again at the same price. What do we got to do? And they accepted that offer, and we're already ready to go. They sent us another contract with updated dates, and we're good to go for year number 2. I'll talk about a few cons that I've found with leasing. We've had some difficulty in the past year with trespassers. There's been people come right past our no trespassing signs, and when you contact the agency, they don't want anything to do with it. And I don't know that I blame them, but at the same time, it would be nice for them to have, you know, a little more backbone and be able to help you out and get rid of these trespassers. But in a particular case, I reached out to the agency that we lease with, and we had somebody drive down the edge of the field on us. I'll put a link to that video in this video so you can see it. But we had somebody drive by us, and they drove a little bit through the crop for the farmer, and you know, it probably damaged a little bit of crops, but not significantly enough to have the farmer that mad at him either. So while we had a ruin hunt, it didn't seem like anybody else really cared, so we had to contact the local sheriff, and they were able to find the person, and we can handle it that way. But you're going to have to deal with the situation. You're not going to be able to just contact your agency and say, hey, can you guys take care of these trespassers? And just know that it's super frustrating. I've had it happen already 3 different times, and we've got the matter settled 3 times, but you know, at some point it sucks. I mean, it just sucks to be leasing, paying money and having people run all over. So just keep that in the back of your mind. It's just another headache to deal with. But at the end of the day, if you don't really care to run people off, you can handle the situation. Another con that I wouldn't really apply this to everybody, but if you're a partier or somebody that likes to drink or have camp, there's specific wording in the contract that doesn't really allow you to have alcohol on you at all at the property. And also for this particular one, I really think it's frowned upon to camp or to hang out, or you can't ride ATVs for non-related hunting purposes. You can't just go out there and build a dirt bike track and do whatever you want out there. So while that doesn't apply to everybody, I know that some people like to have a good time and let loose, and this isn't one of those cases. You don't want to be doing this. If you're going through an agency, you could probably get in some serious trouble if you were to tear something up, and you know, that contract might be voided and you might lose all your rights to that property. So just something to keep in the back of your mind. If you guys have any questions, just drop them in the comments below. I'm not going to go out and tell you what agency I lease with. I don't want you guys trying to steal my lease from me, because I'm planning on putting some videos out, and there's some deer down there that I don't want everybody down there trying to get and bid out from underneath me. So if you have any questions, though, leave them in the comments, and let's just talk about this, because you know, hunting's just something that is great, and it's a lot of people's #1 passion, and to be able to go out and hunt more ground and practically own it, it's an awesome thing. And I know that there's a lot of questions when you're first getting started, and it can be intimidating, but it's really not that bad of a process, and hopefully I can help lead you through it. If you would, give this video a like. It helps our channel grow, and go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching.